Eyes wide open. We're looking into these eerie encounters. Don't forget to subscribe and let's take a look.
Do you ever drive I-40 at night? Don't look too long into the dark. Because this highway, it swallows people. For decades, the 2,500-mile stretch of Interstate 40 has been a hunting ground for some of America's most chilling disappearances. Travelers vanish without a trace. Cars are found abandoned with engines still running. And along the Tennessee-North Carolina section, police quietly nicknamed parts of it the Corridor of Bodies, after multiple unsolved murders were discovered near rest stops and exits. Truckers talk about phantom hitchhikers, strangers flagging down cars, then disappearing when help arrives, and a string of missing persons cases that all start the same way. They were last seen on I-40. Over 850 murders across the nation have been linked to I-40, with many remaining unsolved. At least 25 convicted serial killer truckers are currently in prison for multiple murders. So here's the question for you. Is this just coincidence? Or is something hunting along the highway?
Hey, y'all make sure that y'all stay safe out there on I-40 in Raleigh, North Carolina. They say they got a active person with that mechanical engineering, the pew-pew. They say they got somebody active out there that's picking off cars on I-40. So y'all make sure y'all stay safe out there on I-40.
I'm about to tell you one of the scariest highways in the United States. Me personally, as a truck driver that I've traveled throughout the 11 years of traveling as a trucker. So one of the scariest highways that I've ever been on was Interstate 40. Interstate 40 has the most missing people, and especially women, expending from North Carolina all the way to Barstow, California. There's a lot of missing people in Oklahoma and the reservations. A lot of the women anywhere from 18 to age 35. But through my experience on I-40, I've always thought that it was just eerie. You know, there was always a lot of people, you know, there's a lot of creeps out there. So if you're a woman and you're out there traveling, make sure you're with a partner. Make sure you're with somebody and stay safe out there. And if you need to pack one, do that. I advise you to do that. You know, stay protected out there as well. But yeah, guys, I mean, oh, and another thing, a lot of people out there don't realize that, you know, I-40 is very unique as well. You know, there's a lot of people there, you know, they're passing through from California, from the east to the west. So just stay vigilant, guys. I-40 is a true dangerous and just a weird place to be, man.
Tonight, we're back in one of the most dangerous places in the entire world. It's Interstate I-40. I'm going to show you how one wrong mistake can make you disappear forever. The first thing you should avoid is to not stop and help vehicles on the side of the road, especially those that are pulled off on an exit you might be getting off on. So don't make the mistake of falling for a decoy car. I'm pulling off this exit right off the interstate. I'm literally seconds away from the interstate, but I'm going to show you how you can essentially get away with anything out here because there's nobody out here. So they'll set up a decoy car just like this. This is the first mistake you want to avoid. It's mostly going to be a woman pretending to need help while the man is actually over in the woods hiding somewhere. And when you feel sorry for her and pull over to help her, he's going to jump out and ambush you. Okay. And you can do anything out here. I'll show you. Okay. There's nobody around here. And if you think the bait car situation can't happen, then you're dead wrong. Because in Arkansas alone this year in 2025, 3 men have been found unalived in the median of I-40 just outside of West Memphis, Arkansas. That's just in one location. Now, why were they there in the ditches? I can only think that there was a vehicle that they were stopping trying to help. So women, you're not alone in this. Men, you're just as much risk. Just the ones that we know about. That doesn't include all the people that have just gone missing entirely. The next one is intentional minor car crashes that are around these exits and these desolated places on I-40. If you think this can't happen to you or this is an unrealistic situation, just look at the case of D'Angelo Dorsey. This happened back in 2020 on I-35 that runs through Tennessee, arguably the second most dangerous place in the entire world. 2 women were driving their vehicle when they were rear-ended next to one of these exits that he knew would be abandoned. He rear-ended them on purpose, knowing they'd have to pull over on this abandoned exit. He had been staking it out. At that time, he knew no one would be coming by, so he held them at gunpoint and made them get out of their vehicle and get into his vehicle. Only one of these women survived the situation, and it was because he was having such a bad mental breakdown that she convinced him to pull over and let her out, where she went into the gas station and called 911. He then unalived himself further down the interstate when the police were catching up to him. Now, this tactic is unfortunately used frequently between kidnappers and serial killers. It's just this is one of the cases that we actually know exactly what happened because one of them survived. In most cases, no one survived or is ever heard from again. Now, how they mostly implement this tactic is they'll actually drive this area on a loop over and over again that their targeted exit is on, and they're going to look for their prime targets. And how they look for their prime targets is they'll get up behind the vehicle, and then they'll kind of gradually get beside the vehicle, and then they'll look to the side to see if they can see who's driving or who's in the vehicle. And they're mostly looking for teenage women or young women. Okay, if they pull up next to the car and it's a big burly guy, they're mostly going to take a pass in that vehicle. So the next time you're driving on the interstate and you see somebody pull up next to you, look into the car directly at you, and then kind of get behind you, just go ahead and raise those red flags up. Now, after they've identified a good target, they're just going to follow that car until they get to their desired exit. They might follow you for 20 or 30 miles because you got to think this is their job. This is what they're looking for. They've got nothing but time. They've probably been driving that strip over and over on a loop essentially all night. That's why you should never have those dumb baby on board bumper stickers or like those little family tree bumper stickers, because essentially you're just advertising what is inside of that vehicle for a human trafficker or a kidnapper or a serial killer. Now, right before they get to that exit, they're going to give you a little bump on the back of the car, or they're going to get up next to you and get in front of you, and they're going to give you a brake check to make you back into them. Now, essentially this gives them a reason to make you pull over. A lot of times they're hoping that we're going to pull over on that deserted exit. This gives them the perfect reason for why both of you are having to pull over. They're going to seem very apologetic at first. They're probably going to seem like they're panicking a lot. They're going to want you to get out of the car and talk to them, discuss insurances, blah, blah, blah. Stay in that car, lock the doors. If you feel like it was done intentionally, you keep going until you see civilization and you call the cops immediately and tell them while you're on the way there that you feel like it was done intentionally. You will not be faulted if you feel like you were threatened. It's not considered a hit and run if you feel like you were targeted directly. You get on the phone with the police immediately and you tell them the exit or the area that you are going to be going to. Stay in constant communication with them. Another bizarre instance of a targeted car crash involved Juan Martinez. Now, for a long time, authorities thought the car was crashed accidentally by the parents, and they were actually unaware that their 10-year-old son was with them when it happened. Apparently, he was with them when it happened. Several witnesses said that they had saw them that morning, and he was definitely in the car with them. To this day, Juan Martinez has never been found. He was not in the vehicle as the authorities found it, and there has never been any clues to where he could be. After the police further opened the investigation, they were able to track down witnesses who drove by the car crash and said that the only reason why they didn't stop and help is there was already another couple stopping and helping, and they were holding a boy in their arms. Authorities now believe that boy that they were holding in their arms was Juan Martinez because they took him from the vehicle after they caused it to crash. If Juan Martinez is still out there, he would now be an adult, considering this happened more than 10 years ago, and he was already 10 years old when it happened.
Probably about 2 to 3 summers ago, when me and my husband and our 3 kids were traveling to my biological mom's side of the family's vacation home, where we went every summer. We took this exact route every single time we went and never had experienced anything like this. We're traveling down I-40, and obviously at some point on I-40 we do have to exit. We exited down a ramp and have to go under the freeway to get onto the small road that connects I-40 to the connecting highway that gets us to our destination. Now, whenever we were coming up to this exit, I looked over and didn't really see anything. It was pitch black. It was after midnight, and I didn't see any cars. It's a very rural area, so there's no lights, no street lights, nothing like that. So it's pitch black, didn't see no cars. As we exit and go under the underpass and turn on to get to this small connecting road, all of a sudden, these lights flick on behind us, and it's a U-Haul. We're kind of like, well, where did this U-Haul come from? I'm not really sure where it came from. So we just continue on with our drive, kind of like suspicious that we didn't see it, and all of a sudden it's behind us. As we're driving, this U-Haul starts getting on our tail, flashing the lights, honking its horn at us, and we're like, what's going on? Getting close, and they're kind of swerving behind us, and we're not sure if they're trying to run us off, if they're drunk, or what the case is. We kind of slow down to kind of let them pass, but they won't pass us. They keep flicking their brights at us. So then we speed up and we're going probably about 75 and maybe like a 35 at this point because we're trying to get away from them because we don't know what they're doing. We're in the middle of nowhere. It's extremely late at night and we don't know what's going on. Finally, we get away from them and we come up to the intersection where this small road meets the highway that we need to get onto. As we're approaching this intersection, we see that there is this huge semi blocking the road, parked in a slanted way to where nobody could pass on either lane, and his brights are on. As we get closer, we see there's another SUV with another family right in front of us that are kind of just sitting there waiting to see what's going to happen. And we're kind of sitting there for like a minute or two, kind of like, is he stuck? Did he break down? Like, we're kind of confused, but something feels off. At this point, the U-Haul comes flying up behind us, honking their horn, still flicking the lights. Go into the other lane that's supposed to be going in the opposite direction. Obviously, there's no traffic coming. So they get in that lane, pull up to the semi as close as possible, and the semi truck driver gets out of his truck and goes over to the U-Haul, and they're like exchanging something. They're like talking about something, right? And we noticed right behind the truck driver was a smaller truck just parked there. Like it wasn't parked like if it was waiting for the semi to move. It was parked perpendicular, like it's parked. At this point, we're starting to think something is up. So my husband starts saying, make sure all the doors are locked, make sure nobody's coming up to the doors, sensing that something fishy and suspicious is going on. At this point, the car that's in front of us wiggles on the side of the semi and is able to maneuver to get out of the middle of whatever is going on. And we're the only car left. So then at that point, the truck driver must have been coming back from the truck that was parked behind it and started to get back into his semi truck and started to pull forward, kind of blocking us in. So I was like, okay, yeah, no, we're going. And so my husband drove and was able to get out from whatever the middle of this situation that was happening. And we take off and we're on the highway. By this point, the other car that took off is long gone. They floored it once they got out from whatever the middle of that was. And who knows what they saw before we even got to where they were at. But once we got onto that other highway, I looked back and like I said, it's pitch black. All I can see is what's going on in front of the lights of these vehicles. And it looks like by that time, the U-Haul had turned around, backed up to the semi, and they're opening up the back of the U-Haul. Of course, I'm nosy and I want to know what was happening. I will never know that, right? We'll never know that because we left. And I just know that that was a very unsafe situation. I could feel it in my gut. We both felt it in our gut. Like that was a very unsafe situation. I'm pretty sure our assumptions were pretty spot on. They're saying that there's an active investigation looking for many, many truck drivers that are involved in violent crimes or who are deemed to be serial killers. And this is extremely scary, being that my family could have lost their life that night or been put in a very scary situation because we don't know what they were exchanging. We don't know what they were doing. And I'm glad that we didn't find that out. Obviously, my nosy self wants to know. I'll never know, but I'm just glad that we're safe.
So on our way home from Florida, as we were coming through the state of Arkansas between, I think it's the town of Morrilton and Atkins, there's like two small little communities. One of them I think is called Kenwood and Blackwell. Now, I could be wrong. It might not be Kenwood, but there's a little exit there and there's a liquor store and there is a TA travel stop with a Sbarro's Pizza behind it. So super scary thing happened. But as a mom and as a woman with kids, I kind of wanted to put this out there because of those of you who travel, especially along I-40, and it's not just I-40, human trafficking is real, and even, non-cartel related or what other races you want to say, like there are some creepy people out there that are just looking for any type of victim. So we stopped to get gas and my partner takes my little girl in to use the bathroom and I'm sitting in the driver's seat. My son, he is 15 years old, but he looks like he's like 18. He's about 6'1", 6'2", 320 pounds. He gets out to pump the gas, and I'm just sitting in the car. I had the window rolled up, and then I see this like busted, I think it's a Pontiac Vibe. Like we were kind of maybe like a 2009 model, definitely a 2000s model, black Pontiac Vibe. I see it pull around in the front of me, and I remember thinking to myself, man, this is a piece of car. Like probably like 400, maybe not 400 pounds. It's like 350 pound, like heavy set, older white man, probably in his 50s, like white hair, a little bit of a beard. The car was pretty beat up. Like there was like tape on the back window, panels hanging off and missing. He like pulls around, like he circles around us and then pulls around. And I guess he was looking for a gas pump, and I wasn't really thinking twice about it. So he pulls in next to us. He is kind of a little bit far from the pump, but I kept thinking like, well, maybe he just needed the space to open the door. And a little bit later, my son taps on the window and I roll it down. He's like, hey mom, can you call that guy's phone? He says he can't find it. And then he looks back at the guy and says, oh, never mind. And then he comes around and gets in the car. And I was like, well, that was creepy. What's going on? And then I look over and this man's just still sitting there in his car running, like not attempting to pump gas. And I said, well, what did he say to you? And he said, hey young man, can you call my phone for me? I can't find it. And I was like, well, that's odd. And I was like, that sounds pretty freaking creepy. So you didn't call it, did you? Because like, I would not call a stranger's phone. Like there's all kinds of shit you can do with your number or send you like some nasty photos you don't want to see. And he says, well, I tapped on the window and I told him, I was like, well, hey, when I was asking you to do it, he said, oh, hey, never mind. I found it. It's right here. So my son's sitting there and I'm sitting there thinking like, you know, like, let this creepy man, you know, like F around and find out, like come up to my window. Because like we're not those people that, let's just say you don't want to mess around. So I'm still sitting there and I'm looking at him thinking like, what is this man doing? Like, do I need to get out and say something to him? And he's just sitting there. About another 10 minutes pass by, and then my partner comes out of the store with my little girl. And as soon as he gets close, this dude like takes off. And I like turned my head and I told my kid, I said, did you see that? He just took off. So when he hops in the car, I tell him like, this guy, like I'm pretty sure like he was up to something nefarious, right? And what was worrisome to me is like we're traveling through, it was like 8 o'clock at night, but it's kind of like a seedy looking area. And like I can see other cars with license plates from other states. Some of them are like women just traveling with kids. And I'm thinking like, you know, you guys need to be a little more prepared. Like those of you who are against conceal and carry or carrying a type of weapon with you, like you need to wake up. We live in a world where you need to, because there are people out there that are going to test you. They're going to test the Jesus in you. And they're definitely going to test that button. Stay alert, because this is real. Like it was a scary situation for my son. He's like, Mom, I was pretty freaking creeped out. And of course me, I'm just sitting there thinking like, man, you know, I wish he would have, but anyway.
Good morning. Well, I'm working local these days, and so right now I'm hauling rocks, and I'm waiting for them to turn on the belt underneath the pit where I have to drop my rocks at right now. Monday morning, they're in a meeting. I was at the state line at Tennessee and North Carolina. It was one of those mornings where, I just had I had 45 minutes to take a nap. That's all I had before it was time for me to get to my destination. And, so I pulled off at it was an on-ramp, technically. Not normally a truck driver, if you're going to sleep on the on-ramps, you usually go and do it on the exit ramp side, because usually it's a little bit safer. You know, the vehicles that are getting on the freeway are going a little bit slower than the ones getting off the freeway. And it's just all the way around a little bit safer usually. But as I was approaching that exit ramp, I had seen that the trucks were lined up down onto the interstate. There was many, many trucks on the on-ramp. So I decided to stop at the exit ramp. There was only, if I remember correctly, 3 or 4, maybe 5. I wasn't alone. And, so I got there and I set my alarm for 45 minutes. When my alarm went off, it was still dark, pitch dark, but it was early morning hours, probably 4 or 5 in the morning. So back then we used paper logs. And so I turned on my porch light to, sit there and do my log, and, was for all practical purposes at this point. Now I had noticed that all the other trucks had left. I was by myself, but I was also getting ready to leave. Again, no alarms, nothing. So I'm just sitting there and doing my logbook and all of a sudden I hear tap, 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 tap. And I look, and there is a man. He's standing on the steps of my truck. His face is about pressed up to my window on my door there. So our faces are literally a foot apart. First thing I noticed is the eyes. Crazy. And he's standing there on the side of my truck, and he's making this circular motion with his hand to roll down my window. Yeah, that wasn't happening. And I was instantly very scared. So I yelled at him to get off of my truck, to which of course he did not comply. I turned the light off inside the truck, and of course he was still hanging on. I got to the top of that exit ramp, crossed over the street, went straight down onto the on-ramp, and he was still hanging on. And I was going, the last time I looked at my speedometer, I was going 25 miles an hour when I hit the interstate. And that was when he let go. And I watched him in my side mirror hit the ground. I watched him roll, and I did not stop and check to see how he was.
Every single one of these trucks is a U.S. government truck. So you see this guy running his chicken lights here. Also me right next to him running my chicken lights. I'm at a truck stop here, and I just discovered some crazy stuff. I do not want to get caught exposing this stuff right here, but I was just walking to the truck stop, and one of these guys from the trucks came out, and I realized something really off about him. And then as I was making my way further, a couple more guys came out of those trucks, and they also started walking inside the truck stop. And I looked back, these guys were walking in a weird formation, in a weird way, and most of them looked like they had badges on them. But the craziest part I noticed is that all the guys that came out of the trucks were not running their chicken lights. So if you look, all these guys right here, and then this guy, he's running his lights. So if you look right here, all of these guys are not running their lights, and then we have a few guys who are running their lights, and then all these trucks who are not running their lights. So I quickly bypassed through the truck stop, came running out the back over here, back to my truck, so they're somewhere inside there. But I realized that all these trucks that are not running their chicken lights are actual U.S. government trucks. See right here, U.S. Express, but if you look closer, it says government in that blue line underneath it. Can't believe that even a Kenworth right here is a U.S. government truck. I don't want to expose them, but some weird stuff is happening at this truck stop here. And it just goes to show all the guys that had the chicken lights on are not government trucks. The U.S. government is trying to lay low, and they're trying to hide and turn off all their lights so that they're not as noticeable. While the regular guys like us, we leave them on because we're proud of our lights, and we actually put time and effort installing most of these lights. Makes me think, how many trucks on the road these days are U.S. government trucks? And what are they out here doing? Shouldn't it be just regular civilians doing truck driving jobs? Because this whole time that I've been walking around, I've been noticing these U.S. flags. All the guys inside them are actually staring, peeking out of the curtains. They're watching us for some reason. Next time you're at a truck stop, look around you. All the trucks that have no chicken lights on are actually U.S. government trucks, and they're not here for trucking reasons. They're here for other reasons, or maybe they are transporting some stuff that we have no idea about.
I-40 is over 2,500 miles long through the United States, running through the most remote areas. Could not pay me to be on that strip, okay? And apparently multiple serial killers sit there and pretend to be ill. They set up women and children to be bait so that people, specifically women, will come and help and be taken and dragged out into those woods. And by the way, those woods are government owned, so we don't know anything about what's going on in there. Let's talk about the three main disappearances that make the hairs on the back of my neck stand up, because something doesn't seem right. So I believe it was March 2025, a family of 3 South Korean nationals were traveling westbound on I-40 after they visited the Grand Canyon. Jeon Lee, Tae-hee Kim, and Jung-hee Kim were last seen at about 3:30 p.m. when they came across a multiple car crash during a snowstorm. All of a sudden they vanished. Mind you guys, they were not part of this car crash. Hours later, their human remains were found near the crash site, closer to the woods, and still to this day, nobody knows what happened to them. Then we have Carolyn Celeste Eaton, that was for decades known as Valentine Sally. She disappeared on February 14th, 1982, and was last seen with an unidentified man at a truck stop in Ash Fork. She was also said to be hitchhiking. Her body was found mutilated under a cedar tree. Her pants and belt loops were torn, indicating that she was dragged 25 feet off of the roadway towards the forest. It is still a cold case because nobody knows what happened to Celeste. Now back to 2025. In August, Matthew Spencer, driving from Las Vegas to Houston on August 5th, 2025, and was last heard from on August 6th when his car broke down near Belmont and Williams, Arizona. There has been no trace of him, and the internet pins him last right near the woods, and he's still gone right now. No one knows where this man is. These are just 3 instances. There are many.
If you're currently driving on I-40 or plan to be driving on I-40, take this as your sign. About 4 years ago, I was driving down I-40 and I ran out of gas and I didn't realize that I was running out of gas. Come to find out, I-40 is known as Serial Killer Central. So I pull over to this gas station and it's really dark. There's nobody there. At this point, I'm on E. I literally hear something like footsteps behind me. I turn around. It's this man with big muddy boots. When I tell you guys, I literally screamed. This man started running towards me. The louder I screamed, the faster he ran. Then something fell out of his pocket. He stopped, turned around and picked it up. That's when I literally ran back to the car as fast as I could because I knew for a fact I would not be here today telling this story if I didn't go when I had the chance. Now, I did get a glimpse of what he picked up, and it was a knife. When I tell you my soul left my body, I couldn't breathe. I took off so fast, but then my car literally stopped working not even 5 minutes down the road. All I could see is his lights right behind me, chasing me still. And so I pulled over because the car was puttering. I put the hazard lights on. Y'all are not going to believe what happened after. The police showed up and he was right behind me. He took off and the police literally chased him. Book the flight. I posted a video yesterday about my experience on the highway I-40, and since then there has been thousands and thousands of girls in my messages telling me about their experiences. If you're on I-40, make sure these 3 things. Always have gas, make sure that somebody has your location, and have your phone or some kind of item that can protect you so that you can call 911 or protect yourself immediately. They're specifically targeting women. Okay, so if you're a woman who plans on driving on I-40 and you're not going to take a flight, be very aware. This is not a joke. This is very much real. And if you do your research, you'll see what I'm talking about.
So, unfortunately, I am on I-40. If you've heard about that, you know, serial killer central. So, I already was keeping my guard up, just being on this interstate in general. And I actually didn't really know the full extent of how dangerous specifically this interstate is until last night. So, this morning, I go to a rest stop, which I didn't really want to do, but I had to get gas. I had to get gas. I had no choice. I, wanted coffee and I was like, you know what? It's the morning time now. I'm really good about being aware of my surroundings, blah, blah. So, I go into the gas station. I do my thing. I'm going to the bathroom. And then I start to go grab a coffee. Immediately, I see some guy lurking, I would use the word stalking, from a slight distance, but really not that far away. He was making it very obvious that he was staring me down. He was staring at me and then I would make eye contact and he wouldn't look away. So I just keep staring at him and I'm stirring my coffee and I'm and then he takes that, I don't know, as a sign to walk up to me. So he walks up, he starts walking towards me and he's like, "Good morning, sweetheart." And immediately I was like, "No." And I literally waved him off and I was like, "No." And he said, "Oh, okay, it's okay." And then walked away. If he actually had something important to say to me or I don't know what he would be saying to me, but if he actually had something that was not ill-intended, he wouldn't have just walked away like that. Keep that in mind. So then I go out to my car and I'm like starting to record to tell you guys that story. And I actually was just going to post it on my story. I go out to my car. I didn't like run out to my car or anything, but I like somewhat hustled and I was like walking with like a don't me, you know what I mean? And then I get out to my car and I'm like, I figure it's fine if I sit out in my car for like 3 minutes with my doors locked to tell you guys that quick little story. Nope, apparently not. Apparently not, guys. I'm literally parked. I'm not kidding you. I was in my car no more than 3 minutes. My doors were in fact locked, yes, and my car was already on. Another man comes up to my window. Tap, 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 tap. And mind you, I'm already recording this video when he does that. So I was not expecting it. Again, immediately shut it down. I did not roll my window down even in the slightest, and I'm really glad that I didn't. Who knows what the is gonna do? I literally just said no, and I put my car in reverse, and he said no. I was like, no. And guess what? Again, very quickly rushed back inside. Didn't try to get me any further to do anything else. If he actually had anything important to tell me, he wouldn't have just walked away like that, because he knew that he looked weird and sus. Ladies, if you travel, if you're a lady that's a trucker, be careful out here, y'all. Like, it is no joke. I was in and around that gas station for no more than 10 minutes, and this happened within 10 minutes, both of those interactions. Be safe, ladies.
Okay, guys, I cannot make this stuff up. This is weird. Okay. So I pulled over at the Petrified National Forest, and, I did my little TikTok thing. And then these 3 guys they were older men, probably about like mid-60s or so. They were on Harleys. Well, they were taking pictures of each other. So they were in front of me. They were taking pictures of each other. So I was like, oh, and they waved, they're all nice. And I thought they were nice. I mean, okay, they were nice. They waved at me, and so I waved back at them. So I was like, well, let me be nice and see if they want me to take a picture of all of them. So I got out, and, they looked respectable, 3 respectable, not decent looking, but decently dressed guys would get out of my car, and I go over there, and I was like, hey, do you want me to take a picture of all 3 of you? And the one of them was like, yeah, sure, thank you, that'd be nice. But all I heard him say was some beautiful woman, and I'm taking a picture with you. And I was like, so he comes over and he starts taking a picture of he doesn't like put his arm by me, but just was like this, and he's like taking a picture of us. And so then I didn't think anything, because people, I always give people the benefit of the doubt. So then he's like, are you single? And I'm like, just laugh it off, cause I'm like, I don't want to tell him if I'm single or not. So then I just laugh it off. And then he says, so I take a picture of him, and he's over there. So, hey, do you want to go fool around and, for a little bit, and then we're just going our merry way? And I just kind of like blew him off. And cause the other 2 guys are very nice, they're like very gentlemen, like, so where are you guys from? And they said from Kentucky and somewhere else, back east. And I was like, oh, well, so you're just driving cross country? And yeah, we're just driving cross country. And then that one guy, the older one, he comes over again. So how about if I get your number? And then, when we're coming back through, we'll see if you want to come over and hook up and, kick it for a while. And I'm like, no, thank you. I'm good. And then so I get in my car, give him so you guys take care, whatever. And then I'm back doing my TikTok. And then I see him at the corner of my eye walking over, but I just ignore him. Well, he goes to the back of my car, and he's like, looks up my plates, and he's walking back over to his friends. He's like, yeah, she's from Arizona. And I'm like, oh, so I just put it in drive, and I was like, Oh, and then he was all trying to tell me to get on the back of his Harley so I could take a picture of.
Did you know the most dangerous place in America is Interstates I-40 and I-45? Why? Well, we have the Killing Fields. The Killing Fields in Texas is a 50-mile stretch between Galveston, I don't know how to pronounce it, and Houston, Texas, with over 40 different young women's bodies being discovered along this stretch since the 1970s, with most cases being unsolved, which has been nicknamed the Killing Fields. According to the FBI, the most dangerous interstate in all of America is I-40. This interstate starts from North Carolina all the way to California, right? So a member of the FBI noticed a disgusting pattern in 2004. A lot of women's bodies were being dumped on the side of this interstate of I-40 that were in high risk lifestyles. So they were young and vulnerable, and they realized that serial killers can travel from one end to the other, so hundreds of miles, very, very quickly without being nervous, because at a certain point, cell service stops, making it so hard for a lot of jurisdictions or a lot of one police station in one county to determine where they came from, where they're going. And truckers have been blamed for a lot of these murders because it makes them the perfect suspect, right? Because they have to stop. It's mandatory that they have to stop and take a rest. But also, it makes them the perfect victim. A lot of people don't take into account. Do you know how dangerous it is to truck? And I've heard multiple sources on this, but it's estimated to be around 500 bodies found to about 850 plus bodies have been found along this highway stretch, interstate stretch.
There's a map that the FBI has of the Highway Serial Killings Initiative with red dots everywhere around the country where a body has been found as part of the initiative. But if you stare at it long enough, you'll realize, yes, there are red dots everywhere, but there's a line of red dots running east to west in the south central United States, from the Carolinas, through Tennessee, Arkansas, Texas, Oklahoma, Arizona, New Mexico, and California. And that red line is Interstate 40. It's interstate.
Oh, okay.
So, if your gut's telling you, yeah, why? What? Oh. Yeah, why? So you've got a couple things happening. A major trucking route, long stretches of highway in secluded areas, very conducive to dumping a body. Yeah. So that's kind of what's going on in terms of the victims. Yes, some of these places are socioeconomically very disadvantaged along I-40. So yes, maybe that's part of young people getting into the trap of traffic cash. Although, by the way, rampant in the victim community, that's a part of the process.
Right.
But yeah, that's what it is. It's I-40.
I did not put that together. Okay.
How can two young people vanish from the same truck stop within 48 hours of each other? One has never been found, and the other one was found weeks later, no longer alive, but police say these cases are not connected. Please listen to the details and let me know your thoughts. Keeslyn Noel Roberts was last seen on January 18th, 2020. At the time, she was 20 years old. She was seen at a Flying J truck stop, and when she got there, she allegedly went into the kitchen, which was an employees-only area. That led to an argument with a staff member, and the staff member called police. But before police could arrive, Keeslyn took off on foot. While she was running, her backpack dropped. Now, if Keeslyn was just deciding to run away and start a new life, she would have needed the items that were in that backpack. Her car keys, her cash, her wallet, her debit card, her driver's license, her phone charger. Those are all essential items. Well, they also found some of her clothing in a bush near the dumpsters behind the truck stop. And 2 days after her disappearance, one of her family members found her car still parked at that truck stop with some of her belongings in it. Keeslyn Roberts has never been heard from or seen again. As I was researching Keeslyn's case, I found out about Caleb Nathaniel Smith. He was 21 years old when he was reported missing on January 16th, 2020, so just 2 days before Keeslyn went missing. And guess where he was last seen? The Flying J truck stop in Resaca, Georgia. His vehicle and his belongings were still there in the parking lot, but police did not suspect any foul play. His body was later found in a wooded area of Gordon County on February 2nd, 2020. The autopsy said that this was an OD. However, there was also a brush fire, and some people later came out. An investigator wrote that it appeared the fire was set in hopes of destroying the body or evidence. So if this was a simple OD, how would there have been a brush fire set in hopes of destroying the body or evidence? That, in my simple mind, doesn't line up. Now, I want to state again, according to authorities, these two people, Keeslyn Roberts and Caleb Nathaniel Smith, did not know each other, and these cases don't appear to be connected. Keeslyn's case is still listed as missing under suspicious circumstances. Caleb's case has not had any arrest, and there have not really been many updates given, except his mom asking for his case to be re-examined. So I'll ask again. How do two young people vanish from the same truck stop in Resaca, Georgia, within 48 hours of each other? Let me know your thoughts, and if you have any information on either one of these cases, please say something. Keeslyn is still missing. It has been almost 6 years. If you know something, please take that burden off of her family. And rest in peace to Caleb Nathaniel Smith. If this was not a simple OD and someone took his life, I hope that justice comes soon.
The Appalachian Mountains meets the most dangerous interstate in the United States of America. You know some creepy things are bound to happen. Let's talk about more reasons why I will never drive down I-40 again at night. There is an old trucker legend that's rarely talked about publicly where drivers see a black sedan racing behind them at an impossible speed with its bright lights on. And all of a sudden it vanishes in the smoke when they check their rearview mirrors. You could say, girl, that's just a legend. No, here's the creepy part. Between 2001 to 2020, police records have shown multiple drivers calling in frantically reporting a car that matches that exact description. And those same callers lost control of their vehicles moments later after seeing this sedan. To make matters even worse, one of those drivers actually and his dash cam records seeing bright headlights forming and then disappearing seconds after the crash. Can you explain that to me? Like, bruh. Okay, another instance. Let's talk about the 2021 disappearance of a 26-year-old man named Samuel that was doing a solo drive into Arkansas. His very last text that he sent out said,
"There's something following me on the side of the road. I'm not kidding."
Minutes later, his phone went dark and he was found at a nearby rest stop, his door open and his hat on the ground. Cadaver dogs actually tracked a scent that led directly into the middle of a field and then stopped. No drag marks, no footsteps, no animal marks or animal footprints, just nothing. As if he was abducted or something. The case still remains unsolved. Of course, if we're talking about Appalachian Mountains, we have to talk about skinwalkers. The stretch through Arizona has some of the darkest and emptiest land in the country. Because of the fact that this is a Navajo nation, the Navajo Rangers have actually documented a lot of strange occurrences, like families stopping on the shoulder and reporting that there's something outside their car and just vanishing. When authorities end up going to check it out, it's always the same tune. Their car is untouched, engine is still running, no footprints, no track marks, nothing, and they are never seen again. Indigenous locals say that it's skinwalkers following these people out into the desert, and when they stop their car, that's when they get them. And if you don't know anything about skinwalkers, I can make another video on that, but all I'm going to tell you is if you see one, you're probably too late.
Every time I hear about the fact that the FBI has confirmed that there is probably over 500 unnamed serial unalivers on Interstate 40, and it's all government owned, like, I always drive down these roads, and I'm so creeped out because look how dark the woods are. Anything could be happening in these woods. Look at this. There's no way. Oh my gosh. Just think about how many creepy, crazy, scary things, not even supernatural, but just like true crime that is going on in here as I'm driving by.
Okay, y'all, I'm here in the comfort of my home, thank God, because I was getting too creeped out talking about that. But since we're on the topic, I am going to tell you about 2 disappearances on I-40 that absolutely shiver my timbers. If you've ever driven on I-40 at night, there's a reason why people tell you don't stop unless you absolutely have to. Because I-40 isn't just a highway, it's literally a corridor where people disappear. In the late 1990s, a woman traveling alone on the Texas Panhandle pulled into an I-40 rest area just west of Amarillo. The car was found the next morning with her not inside it. Parked normally, keys inside, purse untouched, like she just vanished. Investigators say that they believe that she walked to the bathroom and never made it back. They're completely unsure what happened to her. There were no witnesses, no struggle, and no evidence that she even left the area. And in the early 2000s in Gallup, New Mexico, a young man driving eastbound told his loved one on the phone that he felt uneasy, like he needed to pull over. That call was the last anyone heard of him, and hours later his car was found on the shoulder of I-40. Again, phone inside, keys inside, no footprints leading away from the car, as if he stepped out and the desert erased him or something. I need y'all to understand that I-40 cuts through abandoned places, reservations, deserts, places with no cameras, no service, no witnesses. Multiple truckers have said that when they've stopped in the wrong place, silence is deafening and they feel like someone's watching them. A lot of people describe it as miles of nothing, where sound carries and help never comes. So if you ever feel that urge to pull over on I-40, you better keep driving, because some roads don't just take you places, they take people.
All truck drivers should have to give their DNA upon licensing. This is a comment I saw in a video recently about Interstate 40, which spans the entire United States from the East Coast to the West. And I-140 has more missing people and violent crimes that occur along its stretch than any other road in the U.S. Last year, the FBI identified nearly 450 potential truck drivers that are serial killers. All the way back in 2004, they noticed a pattern of murdered women being dumped along Interstate 40. And in 2009, they announced their project called the Highway Serial Killings Initiative to start looking into these cases as a collective. Most of these women were being picked up or abducted from truck stops, and some were just people trying to hitch rides. This commenter told their terrifying experience that happened to them along I-40 when they had a flat tire. A man had stopped to help them, but quickly turned around and got back in his truck when two other men stopped to help. The commenter would later find out that the person that had first stopped to help was Bruce Mendenhall, who was just recently convicted of killing 3 women after abducting them from truck stops. But he's also suspected in 9 or more cases. The fact that you can drive down a road and almost certainly be driving the same route as a serial killer is absolutely terrifying.
FBI believes that multiple serial killer truckers are currently on the loose, hunting for victims along American highways. Take a look at this map from the Highway Serial Killings Initiative database. The red dots show where remains have been found along highways over the past 30 years. Well, right now, the FBI believes at least 850 murders are linked to long-haul truckers.
We started noticing within our database a number of bodies along the side of the road. Victims kept coming up as prostitutes, specifically truck stop prostitutes. And one after another, our main suspects or confirmed offenders were identified as truck drivers. They're extremely difficult to track down, and the mobility of their occupation allows them access to so many different areas of victim selection and then victim release locations.
When Frank Figliucci, a former FBI assistant director for counterintelligence, heard the disturbing data, he realized that he needed to zero in. So he spent a year riding more than 2,000 miles in a semi to research the subculture and find answers. Well, that research culminated in his new book, Long Haul, Hunting the Highway Serial Killers. And he writes, quote, part cowboy, part fighter pilot, part hermit. Long-haul truckers glide along the edge of a certain seam in the fabric of our society, the seam that separates their reality from ours. Killer truckers exploit that seam. Well, the book explores some notorious cases like that of Robert Ben Rhodes, the man known as the truck stop killer. He was finally busted in April of 1990 when a state trooper pulled him over in Arizona. But that trooper was not prepared for the shocking discovery he made. A woman chained inside of the truck's cab, screaming, covered in red welts and lacerations with only slippers on her feet. Well, police soon learned that that man had built a torture chamber in the rear of the semi. It is possible he killed as many as 50 people. And this author joins us live. We're so glad to be speaking with him about more on his new book. Thank you so much for making the time tonight.
Thank you, Natasha, for helping get the word out.
Yeah, so the FBI says at least 850 murders are linked to long-haul truckers. Did you find any other troubling data in your research?
Yeah, the numbers don't get any better. So 850 roadside murders of women, mostly sex trafficked women, but not all. And then there are 200 of those murders that are considered unsolved and active investigations. And when I asked the FBI, how many suspects are you currently looking at? The answer is 450 within the trucking community. In fact, 25 long-haul truckers are already serving time in prison for murders as part of this initiative, but that has not made a dent in the unsolved cases.
What makes it so difficult to pinpoint these murderers to get to the bottom of these cases?
You know, these 18-wheelers are essentially mobile crime scenes. They'll grab a victim in one jurisdiction, they'll or murder her in a second jurisdiction, and they'll dump the remains in a third jurisdiction. So that's challenge number one for law enforcement as they try to determine who they have on their hands in terms of a dead body and putting a name with the body, let alone identifying who's done it. And then you've got the nature of the victims. They are almost all suspect. That means that the families may not even know that they're missing. So it's tough to get someone to champion their cause with the law enforcement community. And that's part of what I hope will happen with this book.
Yeah, certainly. This forgotten population, I think that a lot of times they do not get the light that they deserve on their case. You know, and obviously most truckers are not serial killers. We have to say this. Can you speak about the experience with the trucking subculture that you found going all of those miles in a semi-truck? What did you learn about the isolation, the general lifestyle, and the implications for a serial killer?
Yeah, I put my investigator hat back on after retiring from 25 years in the FBI, retiring as assistant director, and I came away incredibly impressed with the hard work and dedication of the American trucker. In fact, in part, I dedicate my book to the stalwart American trucker. The data in terms of their impact on the economy is astounding. We know that grocery stores would run out of goods in 3 days if truckers stopped, but there is a dark side to long-haul trucking. And I ask the question, you know, nature or nurture? Is it a predilection to and to be violent against women that attracts some people to the long-haul job and certain kinds of trucking? I go deep into that. We know that studies show that 44% of truckers are exhibiting signs of major clinical depression. 20% of them binge drink 5 or more drinks at a sitting, and 10% of truckers say they drink alcohol every single day.
That is so important. And we're almost out of time, but very briefly, what is your biggest recommendation for the FBI as they investigate all of these unsolved cases, all of these murders that may be linked to these long-haul truckers? Out of the research, What is your recommendation?
As an investigator, I tried to narrow down that pool of 450 suspects by focusing on the question of corporate drivers versus owner-operators, and specifically what kind of truck are we talking about that might lend itself to being the killer. My recommendation would be that they focus on the type of trucking and the nature of the truck being driven.
Whatever you do, never stop on this highway. People go missing here more than almost anywhere else in America. I-40, Tennessee to Oklahoma. I-40 looks normal during the day, but at night, it's a different story. Truckers talk about cars abandoned with doors wide open, belongings still inside, but no person anywhere. One woman said a man stepped out of the woods and stood in the road, completely still, just staring. When she called 911, dispatch told her, "Do not get out of your vehicle. Keep driving." When troopers checked the area, no man. Just footprints leading into the trees and stopping. I-95, East Coast. On I-95, a college student's car was found running with the hazard lights on. Her phone was still on the seat. Her wallet. Her bag. She vanished within minutes. No struggle. No evidence. No suspects.
It's super late. It's 4 in the morning. I've just been unpacking the apartment. And, sorry, my heart's just racing and I'm like shaking right now because there is this person who's been following me since I left. Oh my god, what the hell, man?
This is a kind reminder.
Don't forget to subscribe and like. And as always, stay safe, stay aware, and question everything.